So I will actually talk about what the European Science Media Hub has been doing in Infodemic, because we developed a devoted project for them. But instead of telling you what we did at the beginning, I will start with the lessons learned. Because actually the European Science Media Hub was born 3 years ago in the European Parliament. And its mandate is really to bring together all the different actors in the landscape of science communications. Journalists, policymakers, researchers, and science communicators, and other people that are working on science communication and on research and innovation, actually, to improve, let's say, the quality of the science communication. This was already something that was discussed before the pandemic hit. Well, what happened is that when the pandemic hit us, it, in a sense, it opens up a door for us to really focus on what our mandate was. And so what we have been doing is just adapting a bit our project, that I will tell you in a while in which way we do science communication. We try to do quality-based science communication and knowledge-based science communication by adapting to the needs of the pandemic. And so what we did first, to try to understand what was the need out there to tackle the infodemic that was starting circulating about the new virus and all the different aspects of the pandemic. So first of all, we actually learn immediately that expertise indeed matters. So in the first instance was that when there was a health crisis, when the health crisis came in, people were actually looking for information, for quality information, for knowledge-based science information. And it was became clear that trust in science was actually an element that was interesting to investigate and to understand, to be able to produce and to address the issue of informing about the pandemic. And for us, being in the parliament, you can imagine that also it's quite important that policymakers are actually really developing policies about health issues, and it's quite important how to communicate this. So it was also one of the questions that was already the point was raised in the chat, the so-called rush for knowledge, for instance, because in times of uncertainty, of course, now there was a need for a rapid and all the time updating information on the virus, on its origins, the way it spreads, all the different aspects of the health crisis. And this goes hand in hand with the need to communicate uncertainty and controversial topics that is not easy by definition, but got critical during this pandemic, and is still critical, actually. One of the other questions and one of the other, let's say, aims of our communication was how to respond, really to respond to this information and views constantly changing, to the new elements always coming up on board as far as the information about the virus was getting more and more sound. And one of the other elements, of course, that it's also been touched upon is how to increase science literacy, let's say, because in times of pandemic, people need to follow the information, but it's also important that people know how to follow and how to find the quality information. Last but not least, but this is we could open a Pandora box for this, which was the role played by social media in all this pandemic, let's say, and the problem of tackling the infodemic that was actually really getting huge, the flow of information getting huge. So what we did is, indeed, we launched a project called Tackling the Infodemic, and we reshaped a bit our activities. Actually, the activities of the hub are mainly four. We share information. So we have a web page sharing scientific information via articles, via media review, and via other kinds of publications that we are developing. But at the specific moment, so in March, we already started the so-called project Listen to the Experts, so to promote access to reliable information via interviews to experts. And also we accompany these with the usual publications, but targeting more the COVID-19 and different experts. And at the same time, we further develop our cooperation with journalists and science communication via our events. And last but not least, and this is a field we are further developing, we already do some media monitoring activities, but we will develop more in a social listening direction. So what about the listen to the expert? Listen to the experts was really a mix of publications. First of all, the interviews with different experts, actually virologists and other epidemiologists, experts in the research domain in the different countries, to understand at the beginning how the different countries were tackling the COVID, the health crisis, and to understand which specific experts of each country could be selected, which lessons could be drawn from the different experiences. Second was a list of actually select good sources of information, because we are very much aware of the importance, actually, of the increasing importance of fact checkers and journalists and debunkers also on scientific information. So we have put together a selection of good sources. This is constantly updated as far as we get more useful tools. And as I already said, regular articles, actually our articles are written by journalists, but the added value is that each article proposes different points of view, including researchers' opinions. So we actually have interviews with experts, with researchers at different levels. And for the corona crisis in particular, we address different aspects of the crisis. For instance, we discussed about the tracking clusters, or we had a series on vaccines, we had a series on treatments. We are regularly now going more in deep into the psychological aspects of the pandemic, because it's also something that needs to be investigated. Second point was indeed, so this was the Listen to the Expert project, mainly focused on the pandemic itself, on the COVID-19 different aspects of the crisis. And then going to the real Infodemic project, we actually try to understand the problem of the infodemic. How we did so, and we are doing so. We are actually going to speak to experts that are studying the phenomena of dis and misinformation, to understand what different experts are, with different points of view, looking at different surveys that are conducted all around Europe, and really trying to get some insight out of the different researches that are going on infodemic. At the same time, we're keeping on with articles on scientific disinformation and misinformation, try to make all the time clear the difference. And though these articles cover different experts, because you are very much aware that there are different also tools trying to help to reduce the spread of disinformation and misinformation. So there's a variety of topics that have been covered that we are still covering. We also conducted a small study, let's say, small scale, on disinformation science, and we are planning more. And last but not least, as there are many EU-funded projects that are really trying to investigate how science communication and works, also with particular attention on COVID-19 now. We also make room to present these articles on our webpage to inform people about them. One of our main projects at the beginning of when we were born in 2018, we actually wanted to promote trainings and events with journalists and science communicators, to bring them all on board, and to actually have a network with researchers and policymakers, as I already said at the beginning. And of course, we had to go virtual, as most of all the events are, unfortunately, at the moment, I would say. And we actually organized 2 science media days, we call them, with a clear focus on the pandemic and on how disinformation and misinformation are actually seen at different levels. In this case, the Science Media Days project is actually a bit wide. The idea is to go to different countries to really see the landscape of science communication and science journalism, and trying to also to bring our message there. But this will probably be restored live after now, as the vaccination campaign is going very, very well. Maybe from September we will be able to go back live to the different EU countries to bring our message. So as I said before, we have been actually organizing since the beginning a lot of trainings, fighting disinformation in the digital age, tackling disinformation and misinformation in science. Each of them has a characteristic. I will invite you all to maybe go, and if you're curious, to go to our webpage to see what we have been discussing with all the different experts of the different sectors. Last but not least, we actually have a summer school for yearly summer school for young journalists and science communicators, to give them a space and the possibility to discuss with all our other experts. This is 1 week. It's a 1 week event. It has to be live, so actually we had to skip it last year. We hopefully will go back next year with the different topics. So we started with AI and journalism. Last year we should have spoken about environmental sustainability. As I also already said, we also dealing with media monitoring, and we produce regular automated helped media reviews, but we are actually developing more in direction social media listening, also thanks to fruitful collaboration with WHO. And last but not least, we also actually open to collaborate, as we are really aiming at having a network with researchers, science communicators, and all the people that are interested in science communication at the European level. We have, our network has been growing, so we have a network of researchers, science organizations, stakeholders. They regularly receive our information about our project. We are actually, I think we are actually much more than 600 by now. And we also have an open call for experts in science communications, or to all people that wish to collaborate with us. You can apply all the information on the webpage. I would actually close with saying that what we are really aiming now is to bring what we are learning, what we have learned, and what we are learning during the pandemic with this tackling the Infodemic project to other topics. First of all, we try to move, for instance, it is also because the two crises are strictly interconnected. We will go back, let's say, to climate change and try to really see how the lessons that we have been learning can apply to other sectors of the other subjects of the scientific realm, because this is what we are actually aiming at. And I think this pandemic, in a sense, is giving us, allow me the good words, an opportunity to really work all together, as I think other colleagues have already said. So we have to also, the most important thing is to focus on the important lessons. I think we are on a good way to get a bit out of it, and we can definitely improve the situation and trying to tackle this information furthermore. Thank you for your attention.